we are thrilled that Solveig Muus is here with us today, the Director of Lutheran Advocacy Ministry in Arizona, with a ministry of our Grand Canyon Synod and the ELCA. Solveig has been with us this morning. She delivered our sermon this morning, offered the Word of God for us, gathered together here, and she'll be doing the same again for our 10:30 service. And now she's going to be letting us know about all the good things that LAMA is doing, how we can be involved, how we can make a difference in our world. Welcome to everybody who's watching online. You'll be able to type questions that you have in the comments when we have some question-answer time, and I will relate them to Solveig here. And so please feel free to participate fully. So let's now welcome Solveig. Thanks for being here.
Pastor Anne-Marie asked me to sort of introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I am Solveig Muus, and I am with Lutheran Advocacy Ministry of Arizona. I also serve, that's a ministry of the Grand Canyon Synod, and I also serve, that's a half-time job, I also serve as Director of Advancement at Spirit in the Desert Retreat Center, for those of you who know Spirit in the Desert. I've been in the Valley for about 30 years. I'm from Minnesota, as probably some of you are. That's right. I went to high school and college and grad school in Minnesota and came out about 30 years ago. And I love it here. I worked for many, many years for a company called Autumn, aka Christian Brands. If you buy communion cups, chances are you buy them from Living Grace, which is one of Autumn's Christian brands. Anyway, so that's who I am. And I wanted to tell you today a little bit about LAMA, and we want to sort of kick off our year of hunger engagement. So LAMA, for those of you who don't know, is one of 17 state public policy offices for ELCA churchwide. We are the newest. We opened our doors 1 week before the pandemic hit. Okay, so for 2 years, almost everything that we did was virtual, and now we're starting to finally be able to visit congregations, and I'm just thrilled to be here at Esperanza today and to help you kick off this great year that you're planning. The state public policy offices exist to sort of carry the sort of the civic engagement message of the ELCA into our congregations. And every month I meet with sort of the churchwide, all of the directors of the state public policy offices by Zoom. And then every month we also meet with our own policy committee, and we talk about what it is that we're going to sort of engage in for the year. So for example, the policy priorities for LAMA for 2022 are food insecurity and all the root causes of hunger in Arizona, and civic engagement, aka voter integrity, right? So the most important thing that I want you to know, well, not one of the things I want you to know about LAMA is that we in Arizona, we know that we're a purple state, right? And we don't take sides, right? We follow the path of Jesus is what we're doing. We base all of our responses on ELCA social teachings, of which there are many. And the reason that we picked food insecurity is that as the newest state public policy office, we want our congregations to come to us, to begin to trust us, to kind of take the seed out of our hand, if you will, just until we get comfortable with each other. Believe it or not, there are some churches that feel that we don't belong in this space. And the response is, of course, we belong in this space. This is what we're called to do. This is our ELCA social teachings and practices. This is what Jesus would do. This is why we're engaged in this. Another reason that we picked and food insecurity comes because we know that this is something that regardless of political leanings, we can all agree, right, that no one should go hungry. We may disagree on how people became hungry in the first place. We may disagree about how to solve the problem of hunger in Arizona, but we can agree that no one should be hungry. Plus, the ELCA World Hunger gave us the seed money to start LAMA in the first place and continues to give us a grant each year. So that's one of the reasons why hunger is so key to our policy priorities. And the other one, I think you can figure out, is kind of obvious. The civic engagement, and the way that we are framing it is in voter engagement and making sure that there are no barriers to people getting to vote and voicing their opinion. So that's kind of how we're framing that. I want to read you this one paragraph from our social statements on why we do advocacy. Lutherans are called to be a publicly engaged church. Our Christian faith compels us to attend to the world through the lens of our relationship to God and to one another. As a public church, we have a responsibility to step outside our comfort zones and challenge ourselves to address issues that affect families, communities, and neighbors throughout the world. We believe that by providing immediate relief to those who are hungry, we meet basic needs and recognize the universal human right to food. But ending hunger is about more than food. By connecting people with the resources they need to produce food and gain access to clean water, education, health care, and sources of income, long-term sustainable change can be accomplished. So that's what we're after, right? We're after long-term sustainable change. And I think we all know that Lutherans are amazing at opening their doors and having food pantries and food closets and contributing to hunger causes and so forth. In fact, it was 2 months ago that Bishop Eaton herself joined our Hunger Leaders Network meeting. You remember this, Larry? And I heard her say something that I'd never heard before, which is that 94% of all of our Lutheran congregations in the country have some kind of a feeding program, some kind of work with folks experiencing hunger. That's pretty up and walking amazing, right? And so, to be sure, we're kicking off this year of hunger here at Esperanza, but this is not the first time you all have talked about hunger. Of course not. Hunger has been kind of a bedrock principle of what Lutherans have been doing since the dawn of time, certainly since Martin Luther, certainly since you might recall that Bread for the World was started in 1974. It was at least 1974 that we can track back to, ELCA World Hunger and the ways in which we work with our communities on hunger. So that is why our policy priorities are what they are. You should know that we are in partnership with Lutheran Social Services of the Southwest, and which is a very rare model as well. You may know Connie Phillips is the president and CEO of LSS. She is on our policy council, right? And so we work together to engage our communities, and that is a pretty exciting opportunity for all of us. We also work with our coalition partners. So in the last 2 years since we opened our doors, I have been, about half of the time it is sort of engaging with our congregations and doing a weekly newsletter and getting mailing lists together and websites and all that. And the other half of it has been to meet with our coalition partners, our legislators. We planned a Lutheran Day at the legislature here a couple of months ago, which was amazing. We had 85 people there, and we had about 20 legislators from the State House and the Senate who came and joined us. Speaker Bowers was our speaker. It was an amazing day. But from that, in at that time, we announced a very unique hunger partnership with all of the hunger advocates in the state of Arizona. So Arizona Food Bank Network, Arizona Food Systems Network, Bread for the World, Wheat, Llama, all of the people that are going to be engaged in policy around hunger are going to meet at Spirit in the Desert in August to talk together about what will work best. In the state of Arizona, we're going to make sure that we have indigenous representation, and we talk about food deserts. But the point is to have a sustainable change. We know it can't just be from the food pantry, right? We need to be talking about system change at the legislative level and beyond. And so that's what Llama is engaged in. This partnership that we've established has been insane, because it's the first time that this has ever been done. Faith communities and state agencies and networks of all kinds, the food banks, et cetera, are all going to come together on this. And my theory is, believe me, I was the one who opened my big mouth and started this thing. So I've been sort of pushing this, but my belief is that if we're all in this together, how can the legislature deny that we're here for the common good, right? It's electric as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to tell you a little bit about how that happened, by the way. I was loitering down at the Capitol. I had been, I'll get to this later, I'd been entering some requests to speak applications at the kiosks there, and I'd been loitering, and I saw my own representative was just finishing up like a press conference, and I was just sort of watching and minding my own business. Anyway, she thought that I was there to see her, and so she said, "How can I help?" I'm like, but well, I wanted you to introduce you to our group, and I wanted to tell you about Llama. Okay, yeah. Well, what can I do for you? Well, actually, I've always dreamed of having a hunger caucus in the legislature. She's like, well, now you've got my attention. Come on with me. And we rolled out. She happens to be in a wheelchair. We rolled out up to her office on the 3rd floor, and she immediately called the Speaker of the House and said, "We want to start a hunger caucus." And anyway, within a couple of weeks, she was backpedaling, not for any sort of lack of enthusiasm about it, but because she realized how difficult it is to get everybody engaged and on the same page. We haven't had a hunger caucus in the Arizona legislature since 2003, if you can believe it. So it's been almost 20 years since we've even talked about this at that level. But I brought all kinds of facts and things, and I think we're not going to have time for all of that, but I wanted you to know at least about Arizona. There are 940 people in Arizona who are facing hunger. 918,940 people. That was from Feeding America, and that was a couple of months ago. But that's nearly 1 million people. And of them, 288,950 are children. Right? So that's 1 in 6 children in Arizona are facing hunger. Now, you know that. You have been hearing these facts for years. We all know this to be true. But I looked up. In fact, I sent Pastor Anne Marie. This district is District 18. I looked it up. There are 23,000, wasn't it? 23,000 people right here in this district who are hungry. So this is beautiful here, and it's pristine, and it's fabulous. But don't for a second think that people behind their walls aren't struggling and aren't hungry. You're doing the first best step right now, right? You are looking at this in a fresh way, and you are opening your doors, and you are at every meeting and at every conference and in every task you take on this year, you are looking at hunger in a fresh way. I have been working with Larry and Peggy now for some months because they are on our Hunger Leaders Network, which is another thing that we sort of started under the Llama umbrella here about last June. And so we've talked through a little bit about what you might do here at Esperanza. I know that you're going to do a crop walk, right? How many of you have done crop walks before? Awesome. See, we're bringing these things back to the table, which is so exciting to me. I know that you're going to go down and you're going to flip pancakes at Grace. Now, I hear that you've done that before. Maybe it's been a while, all right, but it's come back around again. And those of you who have done this before know that this is a pretty awesome opportunity to get to know folks in the Grace community who are experiencing homelessness and experiencing hunger, but they are part of Grace's community, absolutely part of our community. We worship together, we work together, we cook together, we clean together, we pick up trash together. It is very much the opportunity to be in relationship with folks who are experiencing distress in their lives that Jesus is talking about, right? That's what you're going to do. And I am so proud of you for taking this step. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the RTS system. I'm watching my time, it's 10:03. How many of you have heard of RTS, Request to Speak? There you go. And if you signed up and if you've used it recently, okay. So what RTS is called Request to Speak. Arizona has one of the country's best systems in which citizens can weigh in on bills that are going through the legislature. So it's a very, very user-friendly way. You sign on, and once you're signed in, you get to weigh in on a bill. You literally put a thumb up or a thumb down. It's like a green thumbs up. It's a red thumbs down. You can be neutral, and you can track these bills. So what Llama does is we winnow down all the chaff and leave the wheat, right? So for example, this year we had more than 130 bills on voting alone. More than 130 bills. And it's impossible to track and know what each of these bills are, but we've been working at this for a while, and we have a coalition partnership with Arizona Faith Network, and we've got it down to 18 priority bills. Then what happens is I put out an action alert in the newsletter and send it to you. If you have an RTS login, you log in, and you can literally type those 4 numbers into the system. Up comes a screen that says, are you in favor or not in favor of this bill? Thumb up or thumb down. You can put a comment in if you want or not. But it is incredibly user-friendly. It's probably in the top 3 of the whole nation and allows us as citizens to weigh in on bills. So I am here with applications if you're interested to fill out an RTS application form. The first time you use it, you have to be down at the Capitol and input it at the kiosks there. I offer to do that for you so you don't even have to drive down. Then I send you a little email when it comes, when I've got it done, and then you're good to go. And you're good to go for a lifetime. It's there for this year, for next year, the next year. I highly recommend this as a way to get engaged. And speaking of, the bill that we were working on this year at our day at the Capitol was 2060. HB 2060 was a bill that allowed, or it was trying to allow felons, ex-felons, folks who'd had a felony on their record. Currently in the system, even if the felony was 10 years old, they can't qualify for SNAP benefits, right? You know, SNAP is food stamps. They can't qualify for SNAP benefits because of the felony on their record without doing all kinds of drug testing. So this one tiny little bill was just trying to remove the requirement for the drug testing so that ex-felons can again apply and receive SNAP benefits for their families. That's how granular these bills can get. That one tiny bill had all of the hunger advocates in Arizona working on it, including Lama. I prepared talking points so that everyone that came to the Capitol could know exactly what we think, what we as people of faith think, how to talk to their legislature, what to say, why it's important. This is what Lama is working on, okay? I should also say that we are doing this at the state level. This is ministry in Arizona. We also I have a colleague in Nevada. His name is Bill Ledford. He's with LEAN. So our synod actually has 2 advocacy offices, right? The Rocky Mountain Synod actually has 2 advocacy offices, one in Denver and one in Santa Fe. So it is also part of my job to remind you that there's also sort of a national level, church-wide advocacy. That's another thing that you might consider, signing up for some point if you're interested in the federal laws and what we are proposing and standing behind and opposing and all of that. Before I drone on any longer, I want to make sure that we have question time if anybody has thoughts or questions about what we're doing. LAMA stands for Lutheran Advocacy Ministry Arizona, right? It's the same kind of nomenclature that's used, in Minnesota and in Texas and so forth, right? Ours happens to be a ministry of the Grand Canyon Synod, but some of them are interfaith. FANWA in Washington and Texas Impact in Texas, there are interfaith. Also in Kansas, interfaith. Ours happens to be just Lutheran and works for the Synod. Question, other thoughts coming to mind? I want to talk about a little bit about things that you are doing and can do to sort of continue this good work, right? You're going to have this crop walk. You're going to have the pancake breakfast. I believe you're going to be preparing sandwiches or meals for heat respite at Grace in the summer. That's another, right? Yeah, I haven't got the details. Well, so I'll put it on the list of things you can do and not assume that this is something you are going to do, right? This is something you can do. But there's also, a piece of it is sort of educating yourselves around this. The ELCA World Hunger team has an amazing amount of resources that you can use. There's resources for adult studies, for youth studies, for children. They do, you've probably seen, perhaps not, they have an amazing Lent. Does this ring a bell? 40 days of giving for Lent. Have you seen this packet? Every year during Lent and every year during Advent, they have a whole congregational study and calendars and congregational action plans. This happens to be the Lent one, but they do it new every year, right? They also have one for Advent. They have an amazing amount of VBS. Every year they come out with a new VBS, and they're all based around the story of hunger. Here's another one. Luther and the Economy, Hungering for Justice, Luther and the Economy, a study guide. Lutherans know how to do their resources. I will say that about Lutherans. So one way that you might engage is to have a study. Do, however that looks, maybe it's on Wednesdays during Lent or something like that, where you work together and learn a little bit about this. You can advocate for justice in person. You can sign up for RTS. You can sign up for our newsletter, get engaged in the process. How many of you are familiar with ELCA's domestic hunger grants? The hunger grants applications opened literally yesterday, I think it was. What's the date today? on the 18th it opened. And this is an amazing opportunity. I sat, in November, I sat on the domestic hunger grants table. The ELCA had $950,000 to spend in domestic hunger grants. And it took 60 of us to read all of the applications that came in for this money. We funded less than a quarter of them. That's how much need there is, right? We read, teams of 3 read every single application. I read 20. The ones that I was given were in Minnesota and Fargo, North Dakota, et cetera, a territory that I knew really well. And I was astonished, first of all, at how much need there is. Second of all, how hard the churches are working to get this off the ground, to help individuals who are experiencing this hunger, right? My theory is that this is good for people of faith to do, but this is not going to solve it long term. Long term, what's going to solve it is in our laws, in the ways in which we look at the root causes of hunger, right? The ways in which we talk with one another, we pass bills that make this problem a thing of the past, right? So anyway, our little team, I think we finally ended up with 5 out of the 20 that we read that were able to get the full funding that they asked for. So one thing that you might do is consider, as an individual or as a congregation, contributing to ELCA World Hunger. It's astonishing how few people are contributing in the Grand Canyon Synod. Robert. Absolutely. There are, it was wide-ranging from trying to sort of fill sort of food deserts with home deliveries and trucks and refrigerated trucks and so forth. It was after-school backpack programs. It was community gardens. It was congregations like Grace, who are in the heart of a community of folks experiencing homelessness, who literally can't do it without grants, can't do the work that they're doing, the feeding and, sort of worshiping together without it. One of the criteria that we were asked to use is this innovative? Is this a new way of approaching this? So one of them was a congregation kind of like Grace, sort of a regentrified downtown. I think it was Madison, Wisconsin. It was an older church like Grace, and they had this idea about having literally a community kitchen that would look like their kitchen was not, kind of a county certified like Grace's kitchen. Theirs was a small, almost a home kitchen. But their idea was to have folks in the community come in and make food for their friends. Just provide food, make food, have dinner for their friends as a way of connecting. They're connecting with the church, but they're connecting with their friends. They're keeping in touch with each other. I was blown away. There's just great and innovative stuff going on. So that's one way, financial. Here's another way. Buy local, right? Buy local. Support our farmers, support our local vendors. This is one of the things that I've learned being a part of the Arizona Food Bank Network sort of community in the last couple of years is how hard we work to make sure that the farmers can continue to farm and can continue to provide the resources that we take for granted. Simple as that, buy local, right? Continue to remember how much we are growing right here in Arizona. I also wanted to sort of share with you a definition, in case you're wondering what's the difference between food security and food insecurity. Food security means that every member of a household has access at all times to enough food for an active, healthy life. At a minimum, food security includes ready availability of healthy, safe, nutritious foods, and the ability to get this food in socially acceptable ways, right? That is, without resorting to emergency food supplies and so forth. Food insecurity means that some or all members of the household have limited or uncertain access to healthy, safe, nutritious foods, or an inability to acquire these foods. So when you hear those numbers, even here in LD 18, right, in District 18, it's startling. And this is where I get choked up with, first of all, the need, but with pride for what it is that we, as Lutherans and as people of faith, do around this issue. Are there other questions, thoughts? I want to make sure that we cover anything. Robert. Please don't apologize. You guys should know that I know Robert in another context, and I adore him. Yeah, that's a good question. The startling truth is there were only 2 ministries in the Grand Canyon Synod who applied. That's why I'm making this a real part of my mission and ministry, to make sure that folks in Arizona know that this is available. And I can tell you what those 2 who applied are: Grace Lutheran Church and Native American Urban Ministry, which meets at Grace Lutheran Church, right? There are so many programs in this state that could use this help, and I cannot figure out what's preventing the filling out of these forms and getting in the mix. So I'm making it my personal mission to make sure it's easy, and if necessary, I'll just fill out those forms for you, right? So I'm asking you to identify some of these programs, right? You're very close to a reservation, which I am certain has needs that we have not yet discovered. The first and most important thing you want to do is be in community with your neighbors. Get to know and understand these neighbors, and together figure out what might serve their needs and yours, right? The astonishing piece is this is going to serve your needs in ways that you never even knew before. Make sure you get out there and get engaged. It's that important. Other questions? I got lots more, but I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to get out to the Narthex, and if you haven't already and you're interested, to sign up for the newsletter. It just comes out weekly on Tuesdays. I'm not going to tell you what time because I never get it out at the same time every week. But what we try to do is keep you up on, there's so many social issues that we could tackle, and my policy committee is forever telling me that I'm, there's mission creep. Just because I'm interested in, immigration, let's say, doesn't mean that we can take all those things on, especially not as a half-time person. So you'll hear about food and hunger, food insecurity, and all the ways in which there are new resources coming out, bills coming out, and then civic engagement. Make sure to vote. Vote early, vote often, all of that, right? There you have it. Thank you so, so much. Whoops. Sure.
What is the best way to tap into your information sources? So is it your website? Go there, you can find.
Yeah, thank you for asking. The website is lamaz.org, but I think the best way would be to tap into the newsletter, sign up for the newsletter, which comes out each week, and that will always give you links that are important, whether it's our links or our coalition partners' links or ELCA church-wide links. I can tell you with all due humility that we have the best newsletter of all the SPPOs. Just saying. Okay. Yes, you can do it online, or you can fill out the form that we left in the narthex. Thank you so much.